Okay, councillors, I've lost a few of you. Where's Malcolm and...
Here I am, I'm back.
Are you back? Excellent, good. All right, councillors. So welcome to this ordinary meeting of the Strathbogie Shire Council on Tuesday, the 18th of August 2020, held virtually via Microsoft Teams. And until further notice, all meetings will be conducted by the Strathbogie Shire, will be held virtually and live streamed on our website at www.strathbogie.vic.gov.au. And this ensures that we are meeting the Victorian Government. Sorry, councillors, could you guys put yourselves on mute while I just run through this, please? Thank you. This ensures that we are meeting the Victorian Government's social distancing requirements to slow the spread of coronavirus COVID-19 and help keep our communities safe. We encourage all community members to watch the meeting online, given that we've had to close the meeting to the public gallery until further notice, following legal advice around how to comply with COVID-19 social distancing rules. Today, all councillors are working from home, as are our council officers, or they are in a closed office space. This is so that we can participate without having to wear a mask. We understand wearing a mask may create accessibility concerns for some members of our community, and we hope by participating in today's meeting remotely, we can overcome this. I wanted to take the opportunity to outline that voting at today's meeting will be held by a show of hands, and all councillors will raise their hands to vote for any motion. For or against cards will then need to be held up, and you'll see on the cards that the for card is a green word for, and those motions with the red word against will be held up by councillors voting for or against a motion. As the Mayor, I will then tally the votes and declare the motion. I will announce when the council, if a councillor has a conflict of interest in a matter, then they will be asked to leave the meeting, and no discussion on the matter will commence until we are sure that they have done so. I will announce when the councillor has rejoined the meeting after the matter has been considered and the vote concluded. If we have any technical difficulties tonight, which means we are unable to broadcast to the public, we will adjourn the meeting for 15 minutes. If the issue is not resolved after this time, but we maintain a quorum of councillors under our local law, we will continue the meeting. If we cannot maintain a quorum, I will have to close the meeting and we'll call another council meeting to consider the unfinished business on the agenda. So thank you to all of those who have joined us today. So moving on in our agenda, I would really like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the lands on which we are all meeting today, and we pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Item 3 on our agenda tonight is apologies, and I believe we have an apology from Phil Howard tonight. Are there any other apologies tonight, councillors? Okay. Item 4 is a confirmation of the minutes of the special meetings of council held on Tuesday the 14th of July 2020 and Tuesday the 4th of August 2020, and the ordinary meeting of council held on Tuesday the 21st of July 2020. So councillors, do I have somebody prepared to move those? Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Williams. All those in favour? Sorry. Thank you, councillors. Lovely. Thank you. We're getting there. Good. All right. Carried unanimously. The next item on our agenda, as we have no, the next item is item 5, disclosures of interests. Councillors, do we have any interests that need to be disclosed tonight? No. All right. In that case, as we have no petitions, which is number 6 on our agenda, we'll move into the report of mayors, councillors and delegates. Now, councillors, I have a report, so I'm happy to read that out, and then if any other councillors wish to speak to a report, we'll go to the councillors after that. So tonight I wanted to speak to some of the concerns that council and the Longwood and Loxley communities have been raising about the use of our local roads by superloads for the Westgate Tunnel project. The Westgate Tunnel project would like to use our local roads through the townships of Longwood and Loxley to move the superloads from Benalla to Melbourne. We have major concerns with the impact on our local road infrastructure and the safety of our communities along the proposed route. We are extremely disappointed with the timeframes imposed on us and the lack of engagement with our community. Our community has not had the opportunity to raise their concerns or provide their invaluable advice on how we can make sure this project is managed safely and effectively. More than this, we are a small rural shire who cannot afford the maintenance and upkeep to our roads that will be needed after constant use by superloads of up to 160 tonnes. This is why at tonight's meeting we will lodge an urgent notice of motion to write to the Department of Transport, the National Heavy Vehicle Regulator and the Westgate Tunnel project to place a halt on the proposed use of our local roads for the diversion of mass cargo transport until a signed agreement between all parties has been reached. Councillors, I'd also like to just address the community in relation to our draft local law number 2 that's currently out for public comment and consultation. So I want to address some concerns that are being raised in our community and on social media about our draft community local law number 2, which is now open for community input. The reason we have this local law is to ensure the safety of our community and protect the amenity we all enjoy, because we're lucky to live in Strathbogie Shire. I understand that for many people this might be the first time you've realised that the local law is in place in our shire, and I can see that there is concern being raised about it being too restrictive, and this is why we need community feedback. The community can provide their feedback through written submissions, and our website contains more information on how to do this. We will also be hosting 2 online information sessions next week, the first being on Monday from 1 to 2 p.m, on Monday, August 24th, and then the next one on Thursday, August 27th from 7 to 8 p.m. Again, for more information on how to register for those sessions will be available on the website. Now, finally, councillors, a really nice positive note to end on. I wanted to use this opportunity to remind our community about our project as part of our Working for Victoria work, and that's in relation to the situation we face with the COVID pandemic, and that's the Strathbogie story. This is a video storytelling, storybook and postcard project that really encourages our community to stay connected during this challenging time. We know the feelings of isolation and loneliness are very real at this time, and this project aims to tackle some of this. We've realised that we've released some sneak peeks to this project on our Facebook page, and I encourage everybody to have a look and also to stay tuned. We expect that we'll have postcards available for our community to send to loved ones, and maybe even a website launch as early as next week. So remember, everyone, we're in this together. We want you to look out for your friends and your loved ones, make sure they're okay, and to stay in touch. And on a final note, I just wanted to say how very proud I am of our community. The fact that we remain COVID-free, we've had no active cases, just shows how well our community are doing at maintaining all of the requirements that were being asked of us. So wearing our masks, social distancing, hand washing. It's really important that we continue to do that. We want our communities to stay safe and stay well. So I just wanted to say thank you to everyone for doing the right thing and keep it up. So councillors, now I'd like to just open it up now for any other councillors who'd like to provide a report. And I'm just going to pop myself on mute. Is there anybody, any councillors? Thanks, Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On Wednesday, the 12th, this last Wednesday, the inaugural meeting of Greening Euroa, the recycled water project for the parks and gardens and schools in Euroa, was held, and really good turnout. And we managed to adopt the constitution. We appointed a detailed design subcommittee, and and Richard McGeehan was voted in as a community member. The water availability the amount of water, recycled water coming through the Euroa water treatment plant is 380 meg per annum, and of course some of that, quite a bit of that, will be going to the golf course and the farm, but there should be plenty of water, recycled water, available for all the parks and gardens and schools in Euroa, and the sooner we get this underway, the better. So it's a great project, and I'm proud to be part of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. Do any other councillors wish to provide a report? Okay, in that case, councillors, we move. Oh, sorry, Councillor Little. Yes. Councillor Little, you need to unmute, please.
Yep.
Thank you.
Look, I'd just like to back up your comments, Madam Mayor, about the big truck route through Loxley, Longwood. I think that community is doing a marvellous job. I think our staff have done a marvellous job there. But I just want to make a note of commendation to the Longwood Action Group, who have almost driven this, I think, from the start. Council have come on board and helped, and we've done a good job. But the Action Group are the particular ones that I really lift my hat to.
Thank you, Councillor Little. All right, councillors, if there are no further reports from councillors, we'll move on in our agenda. We're now up to item 8, public question time, and we have 2 questions that have been submitted to us today. So public question time will be conducted as per the Strathbogie Shire Council's meeting procedure local law number 1, clause 32, and they will be provided because we're now working in an online environment. They've been emailed through. So I will read the questions and the answers that we have provided for them. So the first question is from Michelle Grady of 111 Binney Street, Euroa. And Michelle's question was, can you please tell me what the local government rules are considering smoking on council premises? Currently, small groups of council employees gather behind the building in Binney Street and smoke, and this occurs around every 1.5 to 2 hours. Regards, Michelle Grady. So the response to Michelle's question, so smoking within workplaces and around entrances to public buildings is governed by the Victorian Government. Council currently has no policy in relation to smoking in areas not captured by these regulations. Employees are entitled to take breaks throughout the day in accordance with our enterprise agreement. As an organisation and members of the wider community, we need to be mindful that while smoking is certainly not encouraged from a health perspective, equally people have the right to choose. The smoking area of the council site at 109 Binney Street, Euroa, is located at the back of the site, away from the public, where it would have the least impact on our community. Ashtrays are provided in this area and are regularly used and cleaned. The next question that we have received, councillors, was from Robin Weatherald. It was a question emailed through to our CEO, Julie, and it says, ignoring the implied conflicts of interest written on page 5, Village Voice, my question is based on the paragraph identified as the pub. Of concern is the apparent breach of confidential reports now published, supplied at planning meetings, briefings, sessions for councillors, but of deeper concern is the publishing of information that impacts on the legal rights of the owner and, more seriously, the compromise of council's legal responsibilities. And that's from Robin Weatherald at 23 Hunter Street, Euroa. So the the response to that question, Council has responded to an issue which has arisen in the Violet Town community. The matter referred to regarding one of the hotels in Violet Town is being responded to by Council's Compliance Department. The items listed in Councillor Rayburn's comments in the Violet Town Village Voice are considered as providing information to our community, which we have an obligation to do. Neither the landowner, or the specific site have been explicitly identified. Where a complaint is received in relation to a matter, Council are able to provide milestone updates to our community. So, councillors, they were the questions that were raised for this council meeting. So now we'll move on in our agenda.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, Councillor Thompson.
Could I make a comment for your consideration and officer's consideration? I'm not sure that the release of the addresses of people who are asking questions is necessary, or I'd be interested to know whether it's actually a breach of their privacy. If people were asking questions in person, they wouldn't have to provide their address.
Okay.
I just think it's something we want to take on notice. I feel personally very uncomfortable about residents' addresses being given out in this way.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. I'll take that on notice, and I apologise to the two residents if that was the case. It was provided to me in writing, so I'm reading through the questions and reading through those, but I apologise in response to your point that you've raised. Okay, councillors, we'll move on in our agenda now to item 9, the report of council officers. If we can move on into our agenda to page 1. The first item is 9.6.1, the Tourism, Arts and Culture Advisory Group, unconfirmed minutes of the meetings held in February and June 2020. Councillors, I have a recommendation before us on page 1. Do we have someone prepared to move that? Thank you, Councillor Mason. And do we have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Gardner. All right. Councillor Mason, do you wish to speak to this item?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I noticed in the recommendation that there wasn't no quorum on the Thursday, the 25th of June, but they had a discussion and notes were taken. So it's certainly worthwhile capturing the notes. And some of the discussions, really excellent ideas and topics, and you know, the Nagambie Water Tower, the Arts and Culture Strategy Action Plan, and then you get into Grey Town and the POW camps and the lack of signage, and the Euroa Community Cinema, the upgrade of that, the social media side of it, the campaign, the Tourism, Arts and Culture team have been working on social media campaigns specifically for Instagram, as this page was not being managed. The campaign is centred around the new tracks and trails. As people are looking for things to do outside, it is a great way to show people what they see on their walks. And it just goes on that the Arts and Trails murals, they proposed that instead of big murals on or silo art, the Shire should do something unique, such as smaller art similar to Banksy, which is more like a treasure hunt. What a great idea. And yeah, it goes on. So I'm impressed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. Councillor Gardner, do you wish to speak to this item?
Yes, Madam Mayor, just following on from what Councillor Mason has said, this body is essential for advising and communicating with our community. And following on from the budget, there was a lot of interest in submissions to the budget in relation to arts and tourism, particularly from Euroa. And I'd just like to say that this committee does an excellent job in helping promote arts and tourism throughout the Shire.
Thanks, Councillor Gardner. Any other councillors wish to speak for or against this item? All right, in that case, councillors, we have A recommendation's been moved by Councillor Mason and seconded by Councillor Gardner. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? No. Okay, that's carried unanimously. Thank you. So, councillors, our next item on our agenda is on page 13. It's the public transparency policy, item 9.7.1. Now, Dawn, did you wish to speak to this item, or was it Julie that was? Dawn, thank you.
Yes, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillors, we have a series of reports on the agenda tonight around the new requirements under the Local Government Act. There's several requirements that we need to put into place by the 1st of September. And so the public transparency policy is the first of these reports. And the policy is designed to give effect to the public transparency principles that form part of the new Local Government Act. And it focuses around transparent council decisions, making as much council information available as possible, making information easy to access, and promoting its availability. So these objectives are consistent with the ethos of just maximising transparency with our community and ease of access to information. The policy was drafted based on a template provided by Local Government Victoria, and we've actually released it for public comment for a period of 3 weeks, and we received 1 submission during that exhibition period. And the submission highlighted the need to ensure that council officers keep good records about various issues and daily correspondence. And so I've amended the draft policy to pick up that suggestion, and an amendment has been made to the responsibilities section to ensure that council officers comply with the CEO directives around records management. So, councillors, the report is respectfully seeking the adoption of the policy, and that we also thank the submitter for their contribution to improving it. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Dawn. Now, councillors, we have a recommendation before us on page 13. Do I have somebody prepared to move that recommendation? Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Do we have a seconder? Thanks, Councillor Little. Councillor Thompson, you wish to speak to this item?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just briefly, I think the officers covered it very well, but as was pointed out, the legislation requires local government to operate with openness and transparency, and this policy sets out the framework under which the Strathbogie Shire Council will hopefully do that.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Little. Councillor Little, you're still on mute.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. No, the previous 2 speakers have covered it very well. The importance of being transparent about lots of these decisions is very important, and that's become evident in the last year or 2 of my council life. And I think it's the transparency policy is excellent. Just keeps it out in front of everyone as we move along.
Thank you, Councillor Little. Any other councillors wish to speak for or against this item? All right, in that case, we have a recommendation that's been moved by Councillor Thompson and seconded by Councillor Little. All those in favour? Thank you. Councillor Raymond, thank you. Lovely, carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. The next item on our agenda, councillors, is on page 31. It's item 9.7.2. It's the Public Interest Disclosures Policy 2020. And I might ask our Executive Manager for Governance and Customer Service again, Dawn, would you like to speak to this item?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this report isn't a requirement of the new Act, but there were some changes made to what was formerly known as the Whistleblowers Act in January earlier this year, and we're just updating the policy to reflect those changes. So Council is a nominated on agency under the Protected Disclosures Act, And that means that we can take complaints about councillors, committee members, staff members from staff or from the members of the community around our conduct and behaviour. So under the Act, we have to appoint a public interest disclosure coordinator, which is the Director of Corporate Operations, and I will be supporting him as a public interest disclosure officer to conduct investigations. So we receive matters of concern from staff or members of the public or indeed councillors, and then we investigate the matter. It's really important, and there's a detailed procedure set out in the policy and procedures around protecting the privacy of all parties, not just the complainant, but also the people that are being complained about, to make sure that through the investigation there's absolute confidentiality and privacy. So, councillors, the draft policy in front of you has also been out to public exhibition for public comment. No submissions have been received, and I would just respectfully request that you adopt this policy, and that we also have a focus on our website in terms of encouraging. We want to start to encourage people to come forward with information, and if they're concerned about any behaviour that they witness, we're trying to create a culture that people can come forward and report that to us, and it will be investigated. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Dawn. Councillors, we have a recommendation on page 31. Do I have a councillor prepared to move that recommendation, please? Thank you, Councillor Gardner. Councillor Thompson, are you happy to second that? Yep, thank you. Councillor Gardner, you wish to speak to this item?
Sorry, Madam Mayor, I was having trouble muting myself. Madam Mayor, it's important to have a policy like this so that people in our community and in our organisations feel free and not intimidated to be able to report behaviour that is not in line with what it should be. I hope it doesn't get used very much, but if it's there, if it needs to be, and I think it's an important document to have.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. Councillor Thompson, you wish to speak to this item?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll just reiterate the comments from the officer and Councillor Gardner. I mean, Councillor Gardner used the word important. I would say actually public interest disclosure is vital for local government. It is so important that anyone who sees wrongdoing or improper conduct is able to come forward so that the organisation and perhaps even its individuals can be held accountable for that. Just as importantly, as the officer pointed out, that this is obviously what we call whistleblowing, and for anyone to be able to have confidence in whistleblowing, they need to know that they are protected from detrimental action being taken against them. And so by having a public policy like this, it really goes a long way to instilling confidence in people to A, identify, and B, if they have identified it, come forward with wrongdoing or improper conduct. So I think it's a very good framework to deal with public interest disclosure.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Any other councillors wish to speak for or against this item? All right, councillors, in that case, we have a recommendation that has been moved by Councillor Gardner and seconded by Councillor Thompson. I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. Carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, councillors, our next item on the agenda is on page 64. It's item 9.7.3. It is the Council Expenses Policy 2020. And I'm going to ask the Executive Manager for Governance and Customer Service if she wants to speak to this one as well.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillors, this is a requirement under the new Local Government Act that we must adopt a council expenses policy by the 1st of September. We already have an existing councillor support resources, reimbursement and reporting of expenses policy that we adopted in 2019. This policy has formed the basis of the new draft. However, changes have had to be made because of the different sections and clauses and requirements of the new Local Government Act. So in terms of the resources that are being provided to councillors and the expenses that can be claimed, they're exactly the same as is currently, but some amendments have just had to be made just to update it and to also take into account some of the template requirements from the Local Government of Victoria template, just to make sure that we've got a best practice policy in front of us. So councillors, we did put it out for comment for 3 weeks. We did not get any submissions, and so the policy remains unchanged as per what we exhibited. Thank you.
Thank you, Dawn. Apologies, everybody, if the sound is a little bit hard. It is torrential rain here at Greytown at the moment, so I'm struggling to hear you guys. But thank you, Dawn. That was great. So, councillors, we have a recommendation before us on page 64. Do I have somebody prepared to move that recommendation, please? Thank you, Councillor Mason. Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Williams. Councillor Mason, do you wish to speak to this item?
Just briefly, Madam Mayor, I'd like to thank the Executive Manager, Governance and Customer Service. Great job. And she's gone through and taken all my ammunition away from me. She's explained it thoroughly. And so I'll just stop there. And I'm surprised that no submissions were received. I thought someone would have had a say on this, but not to worry. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. Councillor Williams, do you wish to speak to this item?
Sorry, Madam Chair, it jumps up and down. Yeah, it's very well explained by one of our staff member there. I think she covered nearly everything that was needed in there, and it's very vital to have this, Madam Chair. So I support it, and I'll be voting for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Any other councillors wish to speak for or against this item? All right, then, Council, we have a recommendation on page 64 that has been moved by Councillor Mason and seconded by Councillor Williams. I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. Carried unanimously. Okay, councillors, we're moving on in our agenda. We're up to page 98. It's item 9.7.4, the request for support to lobby the federal and state governments for local government representation on the National Cabinet. And the author of this report, again, is our Executive Manager for Governance and Customer Service. Dawn, did you wish to speak to this item?
Through you, Madam Mayor, it's just a brief item. Council received a letter from East Gippsland Shire requesting support for lobbying to get a local government representative on the committee, and so this is just recommending that we have a voice on that committee. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Wonderful, thank you. Councillors, we have a recommendation before us on page 98. Do I have somebody prepared to move that recommendation, please? Thank you. Moved by Councillor Little and seconded by Councillor Gardner. Thank you. Councillor Little, do you wish to speak to this item? Councillor Little, sorry, could you unmute yourself, please?
I can't remember what I said now. I think this is a very important. It's helping to lock all three levels of government together, and I think that's very, very important.
Thank you, Councillor Little. Councillor Gardner.
Madam Mayor, I think in a lot of instances the community takes local government for granted, and I think that they deserve the ability to be able to be involved with all levels of government, and I think it's a very important level of government for our local communities.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. Do any other councillors wish to speak for or against this item? All right, councillors, we have a recommendation that has been moved by Councillor Little and seconded by Councillor Gardner. All those in favour? Thank you. Carried unanimously. Okay, councillors, we're moving on in our agenda. We're now up to page 103. The item is 9.7.5, Strathbogie Shire Council Audit Committee, unconfirmed minutes of the meeting held on Friday, the 12th of June, 2020, and there is a recommendation before us. Do I have somebody prepared to move that recommendation? Thank you, Councillor Gardner. And a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Little. Councillor Gardner, do you wish to speak to this item? Councillor Gardner, you're still on mute.
Madam Mayor, I would just a quick note, because I think I prefer to speak to the item coming up further in the minutes, which is the new charter for the Audit Committee. The Audit Committee does fulfil an important role in assisting Council to look at the financial operations and the risks associated with local government, and I think that the charter extends that. But yes, the minutes stand by themselves.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. Councillor Little, do you wish to speak to this item?
No, nothing to add to that. Councillor Gardner is a member on that audit committee, so he will he's covered that very well.
Thank you, Councillor Little. Any other councillors wish to speak for or against this item? All right, councillors. In that case, we have a recommendation on page 103 that's been moved by Councillor Gardner and seconded by Councillor Little. All those in favour? Thank you. Councillor Gardner? Thank you. Thank you. That's carried unanimously. All right. Councillors, we're moving on in our agenda. We're now up to page 113. Item is 9.7.6, the Council to Chief Executive Officer Instrument of Delegation. The responsible officer for this report was the Executive Manager for Governance and Customer Service. I'm happy to give us an update on this, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the passing of the new Local Government Act requires Council to review all of its delegation instruments, and we have several. This one is from where Council delegates powers to the Chief Executive Officer, and by delegating its powers, we can make day-to-day decisions under a wide range of legislation that doesn't clog up the council meeting system. So we just couldn't give you all of the decisions that need to be made day-to-day and go through council. So these powers are delegated to the CEO. And then some powers, if the CEO so wishes, can then be subdelegated to other officers as well. But this CEO delegation places restrictions on the sorts of decisions that the CEO can make, and that's set out under Section 11 of the Local Government Act and also in this instrument of delegation. So things like adopting a budget, changing remuneration for themselves obviously can't be decisions made by the CEO. So the draft instrument is based on the current instrument of delegation that we actually updated in March 2020 in response to the COVID emergency. There were some emergency powers that we adopted back in March, and they are still retained in this instrument, but they would lapse once the emergency powers have been withdrawn by the state government. So there's a few new requirements or new delegations that have been specified in terms of financial delegations and financial decisions. So we've retained the existing current limits of $150,000 for goods and services contracts and $200,000 for works that was prescribed under the old Local Government Act and the current delegation. But we've also put in some delegations to allow the CEO to sign off things like work cover premiums, which is something that really doesn't need to come up to council because we must have a work cover insurance under law. And so we're delegating that power, specific power to the CEO. So councillors, once this delegation has been passed, it means that the CEO can then prepare a number of other delegations from herself to staff so that we can make day-to-day decisions and service the community and make easy and efficient decisions for them. So councillors, before you is the instrument to adopt, and there's a series of recommendations that form part of that to make that legal. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Dawn. So councillors, we have a recommendation on page 114. Do I have somebody prepared to move that recommendation, please? Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Williams. Councillor Thompson, you wish to speak to this item?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think it's had a very good explanation, and it's quite self-explanatory through the report. The intention of it is to provide for the ongoing functions of the Shire, as was explained, without decisions having to be referred to the council.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Williams, did you wish to speak to this item?
And the same as Councillor Thompson, I think, as he said, and if the works had to come back to council, it would be held up. So the CEO has the grace of council to be able to do things up to 200,000 for works to be maintained and things like that. So it was very well covered by our officer, I thought, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Any other councillor wish to speak for or against this item? Okay, councillors, we have a recommendation on page 114 that has been moved by Councillor Thompson and seconded by Councillor Williams. All those in favour, please. Thank you. Carried unanimously. The next item on our agenda, councillors, is on page 123. It's item 9.7.7 and is the results of the 2020 Community Satisfaction Survey. And I'm going to ask our CEO, Julie Salomon, if she'd like to speak to this item.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I'm delighted to speak to this report. The Community Satisfaction Survey is a requirement by the state government, and Strathbogie Shire has participated in this survey since 2012, with the exception of 2017, where the Shire used an alternate survey. The 2020 survey was conducted on the 30th of January through to the 22nd of March and contacted 400 Strathbogie Shire residents randomly via telephone. Those residents needed to be aged 18 or over. So the results this year, we achieved an overall score of 50 points, down from 56 in 2019. Council's overall performance is rated statistically significantly lower than the average rating for councils in the statewide and the small rural groups, with index scores of 58 and 56 respectively. This report acknowledges the results of the survey, which indicate that our community is asking us to improve our performance. Over the next 12 months, there will be a concerted effort to expand consultation and engagement activities, better inform the community, and provide an excellent standard of customer service right across all of the activities that we undertake. These key areas of focus for the council staff are known as the 4 Cs: customer service, community decisions, consultation and engagement, and communication. And our priorities right across our organisation. These simple changes will start now. And if you notice on the attachment to this report, there is a commitment back to the community which articulates what we're going to do, what changes we are going to make, and how we invite our community to become involved. But not only will we ask our community to become involved, we will also work on improving our monitoring and reporting and accountability back to our community, which we believe is a very important part of strengthening our performance. So what we'll see, we will improve our communications, including our new website. So we do ask you to keep an eye out for that. For the commitments that require engagement, this will occur after the local government elections, which are scheduled, a caretaker, which is scheduled, a period which starts in the 23rd of September and runs through to the 24th of October. And after the council elections and into 2021, you will see us out and about much more in the community. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Madam CEO. So, councillors, we have a recommendation on page 123. Do I have somebody prepared to move that recommendation, please? Thank you, Councillor Mason. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Rayburn. Councillor Mason, do you wish to speak to this item?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Our CEO has certainly covered this very well, and the only thing I'd like to points I'd like to make that it was so disappointing to me to you endeavour to do the best by your community, and then the satisfaction survey comes in and it's below par, or what I consider well below par, and it makes you want to strive harder, and I'm sure I speak for the whole organisation that we are, and you've heard the CEO say that like we're going to make all these changes and that, and we are. I'm just hoping the whole organisation pulls together and we do get a much better result in the next survey. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. Councillor Rayburn, do you wish to speak to this item?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Firstly, I'd like to thank the CEO for her comprehensive comments, and to Councillor Mason on his comments also. As when I ran for council back in March this year, I was told that our council, that the community was not impressed with it. And this just highlights to me that they were not. And what we really do is need to get out and talk to our community, work with our community and understand our community. If we get reports back like this every year, we're not doing a very good job at all. So I just think hopefully from now on, with the new CEO on board, we can make sure that our community is being heard and we work with them rather than against them.
Thanks, Councillor Raymond. Any other councillors wish to speak for or against this item? Councillor Little. Councillor Little, could you just take yourself off mute, please? Thank you.
I don't think it's all gloom and doom. If you look at the chart on my page 136, but I think it's may vary to others. You look under customer service, the 2019 result is 75, which is 5 points above the small rural average and above the statewide average. It has dropped off in 2020 slightly, but we're still above the average. So our customer service is something we should be very proud of, and that I gather too would involve the girls at the front desk. And I commend them, because I have always heard, talking to anyone about the Shire, that when they ring in, they get such fantastic service from the phone inquiry. So I commend those people on the front desk, and I just like to think it's not all gloom and doom, and we've got a basis to improve for sure, and that's, as CEO has said, that's what will happen in the next 12 months. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
I'll now mute.
Thank you, Councillor. All right, councillors, is there any other councillors who wish to speak for or against this item? Councillor Thompson?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you the CEO for her summary of the findings, and for presenting what I think is an appropriate organisational response to the findings that were there. But the Strathbogie Shire is not just the organisation; it's also its elected government, which is the councillors, the people who set the strategy and ultimately have the control over what is done and what is not done, and that's us. And so I'm, like Councillor Mason, very disappointed. I'm particularly frustrated and very sorry that this council was not able to make substantial progress in improving our delivery to the expectations of our residents, and I hope the next council does better.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. All right, councillors, is there any other councillors who wish to speak for or against this item? Okay, in that case, councillors, we have a recommendation before us on page 123 of our agenda. I'm going to put that to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. Carried unanimously. Okay, councillors, moving on in our agenda, we're now up to page 211. It's item 9.7.8. It's the new Audit and Risk Committee Charter, and the recommendation is on page 212. Do I have, actually, does the Executive Manager for Governance and Customer Service wish to speak to this item?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillors, before you is the new Audit and Risk Committee Charter. So at the moment, the Audit Committee is in place, but the Local Government Act has brought in changes in terms of really broadening its role and deepening its role in the review of council operations. And so we've had to develop a new charter. And once this charter is finalised, the existing committee will need to be disbanded, and that's one of the recommendations in front of you tonight, and also reformed. And so the recommendations in front of you request that we reappoint the existing committee with the terms that's outlined in the papers in front of you, just to keep some continuity, particularly at a time when we actually have to establish a new work program for the Audit and Risk Committee. And there's also some more public reporting requirements as well in terms of how the Audit and Risk Committee is delivering on that work plan. So the charter is based on our existing charter. However, some amendments have obviously been made in relation to the broadened role under the Act, and also in response to some advice and templates that have been released by Local Government Victoria, and also some advice from council's governance lawyers as well. So in keeping with our consultation processes and transparency, we put this out for comment for 3 weeks. And we also discussed the draft charter with the existing audit committee. So we did have a submission from a member of the public who was an experienced auditor, and they requested that the Audit Committee be given an opportunity to meet with VARGO representatives without management present in the room. And so that change is noted in your papers. And the Audit Committee themselves actually brought up some really good amendments to strengthen and to clarify the charter as well. And so those changes have been incorporated in the papers that are before you today. So, councillors, there's a few recommendations in front of you in terms of adopting the charter and also disbanding the existing committee and then reappointing the new committee. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you to our Executive Manager for Governance and Customer Service. Councillors, we have a recommendation on page 212. Do we have somebody prepared to move that recommendation? Thank you, Councillor Gardner. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Williams. Councillor Gardner, do you wish to speak to this item? Councillor Gardner, could you just take yourself off mute, please? Thank you.
Madam Chair, as I mentioned before, the Audit Committee is an important committee and part of Council. I note that some of the new requirements are in the people who are appointed to the committee, and it specifically asks for expertise in financial management and risk and experience in public sector management. So there has to be a balance of members on the committee that covers those areas well. It also increases the amount of work and responsibility, I think, that the Audit Committee has in monitoring compliance of policies and procedures, monitoring council financial performance reporting, monitoring, providing advice on risk management and fraud prevention, overseeing the internal and external audit functions, achievement of high standards of corporate governance, and monitor compliance with various laws and regulations. The new charter will increase the workload of the Audit Committee, and I just wonder whether the resourcing of the Audit Committee is sufficient to be able to achieve these requirements under the new charter. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. Councillor Williams, do you wish to speak?
Yeah, very well covered by Councillor Gardner. If I may, Madam Chair, it's very good to see such a very brilliant committee that's there now, looking after our Audit Committee. Over the past few years, or a few years back, it was very hard to get somebody to stand on the Audit Committee, but now we have some very good people on the Audit Committee, and I hope that keeps going on for years to come, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Any other councillors wish to speak for or against this item? All right, councillors. Oh, sorry, Councillor Thompson, yes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think it's a very good charter, and happy to endorse it and the reappointment of the members. I probably would make the point that I've made before. Auditing is an issue that I take interest in both professionally and also as an elected representative of the community. I think independent oversight of the organisation is so important. And it's for that reason that I've probably continued to make the point about its representation. And so currently we have 6 members of the committee. 4 of those members are either serving or former councillors. I know the criteria is for expertise in financial management and risk and public sector management. It is debatable whether being an elected councillor serves as meeting the criteria for public sector management, but putting that to one side, my concern more is about independence, and I do have a concern that people who have expressed an interest in local politics, whether they are truly of a mindset of being able to independently oversee an organisation. They'll be somewhat influenced by their past experience in local government. As we've seen, I think in this term of council with our own audit committee, there can be a temptation to become still involved in local politics by expressing opinions on council strategy. And I think I certainly would welcome members of the Audit Committee, and I respect their views and input on strategy, but I believe they need to do that as individuals, not through the Audit Committee. The charter of the Audit Committee is very precise about what we're asking people to do. It is to be focused on oversight of financial management and risk and matters of that sort. And it's for that reason, while I think the charter is very sound, and I hope it's a charter that will enable more people who are independent and have experience in finance and risk management to come forward. there's something called the spirit of the charter as well, and how it's applied. So it's one thing to have it as a document, it's another in terms of how it's applied. And I do, this will obviously fall to, the next mayor and the chief executive, but I would appeal to those individuals when they're looking at recruitment of this committee to look beyond local government experience. And in fact, I know we want balance, but if anything, I don't think local councillors or former local councillors should be front of the queue to be appointed to this committee.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Any other councillors wish to speak for or against this item? All right, councillors, we have a recommendation on page 212 that has been moved by Councillor Gardner and seconded by Councillor Williams. All those in favour? Thank you. Carried unanimously. I think I've lost. Sorry, 1, 5, 6. No, all good. Thank you. Carried unanimously. Lovely. Thank you, councillors. We're moving on in our agenda now to page 232. It is item 9.7.9, the proposed memorandum of understanding with the Tongarong Land and Waters Council. And we have a recommendation on page 232. Do I have a councillor prepared to move that? Sorry, Councillor Rayburn, Councillor Thompson. Yep. So moved by Councillor Rayburn. Sorry, Councillor Gardner, I did see your hand up. Were you going to move that item? I saw Councillor Rayburn and Councillor Thompson's hand, but I just saw your hand come up as well.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I would actually like to move an amendment to this motion.
All right, just one moment though. So I saw Councillor Rayburn and Councillor Thompson. Can I just go back to Councillor Rayburn? Were you moving the recommendation as per the report, Councillor Rayburn, or were you?
As printed.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson, were you seconding as printed or were you moving? Yep. Okay, thank you. All right, Councillor Gardner, what was your amendment that you were going to suggest? Because
the amendment, Madam Mayor, is that the council or the recommendation that the council authorise the mayor and chief executive officer to enter into a memorandum of understanding (MOU) with the Tongarong Land and Waters Council after having 1, broad-based discussions and information sessions with the ratepayers and residents in the TLAWC, and 2, as per the council plan, developing an MOU in conjunction with other LGAs in the TLAWC area.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Gardner. Councillor Rayburn, would you consider that amendment, or would you wish to stick with the recommendation as per page 232?
As per the recommendation, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Thompson.
Per the written recommendation, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. In that case, Councillor Gardner. Sorry, Councillor Gardner, you've got your hand up.
Madam Chair, I would like the amendment addressed and decided on by council to see if it should be proposed, as was done in the planning meeting. Right.
So, Councillor Gardner, I think I need to put the current amendment to the vote first, but I'm just going to check with our Executive Officer for Governance. Sorry. Thanks.
Through you, Madam Mayor. So we need to know if there is a seconder for the amendment and then debate.
Yes.
We'll get it right this time.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for the amendment?
Yes, there is. I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor Little. All right. In that case, we'll debate the amendment and then we'll come back to the recommendation as put in the agenda. So, Councillor Gardner, you wish to speak to your amendment?
Yes, Madam Mayor. a memorandum of understanding with the Indigenous community is an important document, and I thoroughly think that we should pursue it. However, I think the recommendations that stood didn't allow for sufficient consultation and openness with our community. It's taking the federal government an enormous amount of time to work their way through recognition of the Indigenous people, because they don't want to get it wrong. Because if it isn't agreed to, it's going to be a long time before it is actually pursued again. The council plan, which was reviewed earlier this year, actually said that we should be doing this in conjunction with other councils. And as I said before, in openness and transparency, our community deserves to be involved in this important issue. If we can get this right at our level of government, it will make it easier in the future for the recognition of the Indigenous community as they should be recognised. And I think that the amendment that I've put enables us to have that discussion with our community, with the Indigenous people, and with adjoining or some of the 15 councils that are covered by the Tongarong area. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. Councillor Little, do you wish to speak to this item?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I think Councillor Gardner has covered the key points here. But I think the most important point, one of the most important points, is the need for appropriate community consultation on this. We've heard all the way through the last year or so how we've been very poor in talking to our community and bringing them on board with these major decisions. And here's an opportunity to bring them on board with this particular item. Bring them into the conversation. I also note that in the community plan review, that it is mentioned here that the work, and it says work with neighbouring councils to develop memorandum of understanding with the Tongarong Land and Waters Council, the Yorta Yorta Aboriginal Corporation. Work with neighbouring councils. Well, I don't understand. I don't think there's been any work done with the neighbouring councils, and there would be some strength, as Councillor Gardner said, to get this through if we had 3 or 4 or more neighbouring councils backing this particular MOU. I think it's very important that the local councils are involved and the public are involved.
Thank you, Councillor Little. Any other councillors wish to speak for or against this amendment? Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm actually going to oppose the amendment, but I do have a lot of empathy with some of the points in there. So if it was a different amendment, I probably would support it. I absolutely agree with the two councillors that have spoken previously that I do think that this is an item that should have more community engagement and discussion. I absolutely support that. I think that is correct. I think, though, in point 1 of Councillor Gardner's amendment, he talks about discussions with the Tongarong Land and Water Council. I think that's already occurred. But the reason why I'm not going to support it is because of point 2, which is about council developing an MOU in conjunction with other local government areas. First of all, I believe there has been some discussion with other local government areas surrounding us. But I don't agree with the concept that we should be held hostage to our surrounding councils and whether they agree or disagree that this is a good thing, and also be held hostage to the pace that they want to work at. I do think we should control our own destiny. So I would support an amendment based on community engagement and discussion, but I won't be supporting this amendment because it holds us hostage to the actions of the local government areas around us.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Rayburn.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm against this as precisely what Councillor Thompson said, because I've come on this council to believing that we are a leading council, that we are looking to become one of the probably standout councils throughout Victoria. And I believe this is a great opportunity for us to lead Victoria going forward. I think it's something that's been needed for a long, long time, the recognition and understanding of our First Nations people. So, and that's why I can't support the amendment, because of the locking in with the other councils. I'm not interested in other councils. I'm interested in the Strathbogie and the MOU with the Tongarong community. So that's where I'd stand, and that's the reason why I'm saying I'm not for the amended motion.
Thank you, Councillor Rayburn. And Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's interesting listening to the debate on this item. Personally, I have absolutely nothing against the MOU with the Tongarong Land and Water Council. I'm really comfortable with it, and as with some of the other councillors, I would like to see it progress. However, tonight, item 2 in our agenda, the public transparency policy 2020, it lays out that we must do community consultation, and this has not been out to community consultation. I just can't see how we can put this policy through after reading this through, and I read it through today, and if we've passed it, we've got to stand by it, and I don't want to be a hypocrite, and 1 minute sign a policy like this and then say, no, on this occasion we don't need to put it out to the public. We have to put it out to the public, and for that reason I will be supporting the amended motion.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. Any other councillors wish to speak?
Yeah.
Councillor Williams?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I support that it goes out to our community, because just 10 minutes, a quarter of an hour ago, we're sitting here complaining about the results of the satisfaction survey. So this is part of the cause why the satisfaction survey didn't come up, because we haven't been out to the community. We promised to go out to the community. We have an opportunity to go out there now and make good faith for something I think is needed in the future. And let's all work together on this. And I support going out to the community and getting the community to have their say, to see which way we go. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Councillor Gardner, do you wish to sum up? You're on mute still.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I'm encouraged that the councillors want to see the consultation with the community. I'm interested that Councillor Thompson and Councillor Rayburn think we're going to be held or we're going to be beholden to outside shires, when back in the council plan in February this year, it was agreed in the council plan that that's what we should do. We don't have to be beholden to the other shires, but we can take the points that they bring up and we can negotiate a stronger MOU by having a diversity of opinions presented in that negotiating process. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. So, Councillor Gardner, I'll get you just to read out your amended motion again. And thank you.
The recommendation is that Council authorise the Mayor and Chief Executive Officer to enter into a Memorandum of Understanding, an MOU, with the Tongarong Land and Waters Council after having 1, a broad-based discussion and information sessions with ratepayers and the residents and the TLAWC, and 2, as per the council plan, developing an MOU in conjunction with other LGAs in the TLAWC area.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Gardner. So we have the amended motion recommendation before us. by Councillor Gardner and seconded by Councillor Little. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? Okay, that's carried 4-3. Okay, councillors, moving on in our agenda to item 9.7.10, the instrument of delegation from the council to the members of council staff. We ask our executive manager for governments and customer service to wish to speak to this item.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Again, the Local Government Act requires us to review all of our delegations. There are some powers through legislation such as the Planning and Environment Act and the Food Act, the Road Management Act, that need to be delegated directly from council to officers and experts. And so this instrument before you tonight, which is quite a lengthy one, reflects that those powers must be given from council. So this is not something that can be delegated from the CEO. So they're based on the existing delegations that are in place. The changes that have been made reflect the new organisational structure, and so some functions of council have moved in terms of the director that they report to, and also the position titles of some jobs have also changed. And so all of these changes are reflected in this new instrument. Given it's such an operational document, there has not been any community consultation. However, under our public transparency policy, the instruments of delegation will certainly be made available upon request for the community. And so, councillors, just in front of you tonight is a recommendation to adopt and affix the seal to this instrument of delegation. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Executive Manager for Governance and Customer Service. So, councillors, we have a recommendation on page 259. Do I have somebody prepared to move that recommendation, please? Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Mason. Councillor Thompson, do you wish to speak to this item?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just briefly, I think it's been well covered and is quite self-explanatory. It's an administrative action to allow the efficient functioning of the Shire.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Mason. You're on mute. Councillor Mason.
And I'd just like to say that I concur with Councillor Thompson, and it's quite routine.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. Any other councillors wish to speak for or against this item? All right, in that case, councillors, we have a recommendation on page 259 of our agenda that has been moved by Councillor Thompson and seconded by Councillor Mason. All those in favour? Thank you. Carried unanimously. Okay, councillors, moving on in our agenda, we're now up to 9.7.11, the business management system, and we have a recommendation that the report be noted. Do I have somebody prepared to move that? That's on page 352 of our agenda, if you're following it. Councillor Williams, thank you. Do you have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Little. Councillor Williams, do you wish to speak to this item? Councillor Williams, you're on mute. If you are speaking, I can't see you or hear you.
Right. Thanks, Madam Chair. Sorry about that. 12 permits were issued, and I noticed there was 608,000 being put into their planning and for the consumption of people in the different areas. I see Lake Ngambia have done very well again. Seven Creeks have done okay, but we must realise that this is a very serious time at the moment with our COVID-19. So people are still investing, and I sincerely hope they keep investing, but I don't know what's going to happen in the future. But at least people are still investing in our Shire, and it's always a positive to see that happening. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Councillor Little, do you wish to speak to this item?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to concur with Councillor Williams on his comments.
Thank you. Do any other councillors wish to speak for or against this item, please? All right, in that case, Councillor Thompson, yes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If you can indulge me for a minute, there's something which one of these charts is really interesting. I mean, I love charts at the best of times, but this one is fascinating. So on page 361, which is the waste management reporting year to date, and so looking at the green line, organics, and looking at the right-hand side of the chart, which covers the quarter to the end of June, that line is amazing. That line is a 50% increase over previous years for the quarter. So we're collecting 50% more organic material in that quarter than in previous years. And I know, and you've commented on the reduction in contamination on organics, which is I think a function of the fact that the numerator has stayed the same. It's probably the same amount of contamination as always been, but we're collecting 50% more. So obviously the math says that that falls by 2/3. But what's fascinating is obviously the period of time that we're talking about here, which is the state of emergency and the fact that people are at home. And so you can draw a couple of conclusions from this. One, that there's a lot more gardening going on, or there's a lot more vegetables being consumed. Either way, it's pretty good. But presumably it's about gardening and the fact that we've had a spectacular autumn as well, which is not just great for primary producers, but has also been great for gardens, and there's so much more work. And the contrast I'd like to highlight is there's an article very recently in The Guardian, and just if you can indulge me, I'll just read for 30 seconds from that. So the article said, councils around Australia have seen a huge increase in volumes of household rubbish and the dumping of waste, triggered by a combination of more online shopping, home improvements, international workers returning to their home countries. So a lot of people who are employed in waste management are obviously casuals, and many from overseas, and a clearing out of unwanted possessions during the coronavirus lockdown. Streets across the country have been littered with items discarded by households, either unable or unwilling to dispose of them in any other way. And I think we're going to talk about the City of Melbourne, who have seen a 70% increase in illegal dumping and a huge increase in waste to landfill, as people in urban areas who have had similar types of lockdowns as we have in this Shire, have obviously been buying online and producing a lot of packaging waste that they've had to dump. And isn't it much healthier when you look at our chart and our landfill line is relatively stable? So instead of going out and buying their 4th television set and having to dump all the polystyrene and the plastic wrapping into landfill, people in our Shire clearly are outside pruning the roses and the trees and the hedges, and I think that is fantastic.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. I think that is a very, very astute observation. Thank you. Any other councillors wish to speak to for or against this item then? Okay, so Councillor Little.
Oh, that's just Councillor Thompson. That's the human side of figures.
Yes.
Or charts or graphs.
Thank you, Councillor Little. All right, councillors, we have a recommendation. It's been moved by Councillor Williams and seconded by Councillor Little. All those in favour? Thank you. Carried unanimously. Okay, councillors, we are now getting towards the end of our agenda. Item 10 is notice as a motion. We don't have a notice motion, but under item 11, we did have the item for urgent business and consideration tonight, and that was shared with you, and it is in the agenda that is available on the website. Councillors, sorry, just bringing up the extra report. This is the item, matter of urgent business, notice of motion, ordinary council meeting 18th of August, notice of motion lodged by Councillor John Mason and Councillor Amanda McLaren as a matter of urgency to write to the State Government, Department of Transport and National Heavy Vehicle Regulator and Westgate Tunnel Project to place a halt on the proposed use of the Avenel Longwood and Alexander Reason's roads for diversion of the mass cargo transport until such time that a signed agreement between all parties has been reached. So, Councillor Mason, you're happy to move this item? We have a recommendation.
Madam Mayor, I believe we have to vote on the...
being accepted as urgent business, sorry.
Yes. So I'll speak to that if that's okay.
Yes, thank you. No, happy for that to be.
Okay, this notice of motion is considered a matter of urgent business due to the significance of the issues associated with the proposed diversion route by the Westgate Tunnel that were only realised following the Friday, 15th of August 2020 meeting, and this matter cannot be deferred until the September Ordinary Council meeting, scheduled 15th of September 2020. That's it.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. So this item is to be considered for urgent business. So we need to, I'm looking at Julie, we need to vote this in as urgent business and then consider the item separately. All right. Yes. So therefore, those councillors who, sorry, do we have a seconder for moving that?
I'm happy to second that.
Thank you, Councillor Little. All right. In that case, councillors, all those in favour of considering this for urgent business, please. Thank you. Carried unanimously. Lovely. Thank you, everyone. All right. So, Councillor Mason, are you? Do you wish to speak to this item?
Do you want me to read out the recommendation, or?
Yes, that would be good. Thank you.
Okay. The recommendation that council write to the State Government, Department of Transport, the National Heavy Vehicle Regulator, and the Westgate Tunnel Project to halt the proposed use of Avenel Longwood and Alexanderson roads for mass cargo, called superloads, transport by the Westgate Tunnel Project as scheduled for the end of August 2020 until such time that 1. A memorandum of understanding has been developed and signed by both Strathbogie Shire Council, in brackets Council, the State Government, Department of Transport and the CPB-JH joint venture Westgate Tunnel Project, including but not limited to 1. The condition, the conditions of the 2.26 million bond to ensure that the roads are maintained, to ensure public safety and preservation of the road reserve. 2, the road drainage, culverts and bridges are reinstated to an agreed improved minimum 15-year design life. 3, a 12-month defects liability period post reinstatement of road, drainage, culverts and bridges. And 4, amenity and safety risk assessments and mitigation strategies are identified and implemented by agreed controls. 2, council and the Longwood Loxley community, have clarity on the number, date, times and duration of any proposed superload movements along the proposed Avenel Longwood and Alexander Roads diversion route, and that mitigation strategies to reduce residential amenity impacts are identified and implemented. 3, appropriate community consultation and engagement has occurred, and agreement reached between the State Government, the Westgate Tunnel Project, Council and the community as to the amenity offsets to the Longwood and Loxley community. And number 4, the State Government Department of Transport planning for superload checklist is fully adhered to, and that the council and the community have received a copy of this document. And item 5, any alternative route or routes do not adversely impact on any communities in the Strathbogie Shire to the satisfaction of council. And I'll go on with the background, or?
Thank you, Councillor Mason. So before you go into the background, I'm just wondering, do we have a seconder for this item? As I'm chairing, I'm unable to second it.
Happy to second it.
Thank you, Councillor Little. Councillor Mason, if you wish to go on to the background now.
Thank you,
Excuse me, Madam Mayor. Can I just
Sorry.
ask clarification?
Yep.
Can I just ask for clarification, if I may,
Certainly, Councillor Rayburn.
prior to this being put? In your recommendation, you're talking about super loads, but I'm of the understanding there's more. It's only going to be a number of super loads, but there's going to be other loads that's going to go via that way also. So I was just wondering, are we better off to say that no loads be moved on that road until we have that? I'm just clarifying it. I don't want to be locked in to say that just super loads is the issue, not all loads.
Thank you, Councillor Rayburn. That's a very good point. Councillor Mason, are you happy to have that amendment made? And I guess through the CEO, just to make sure that that clarifying point is...
I think it's a very good recommendation, Madam Mayor, and I'd like to thank Councillor Rayburn for the input.
Madam Mayor, can I ask a question?
Yes, Councillor Williams, and then I'll go to Councillor Thompson.
I'm sorry. The question is in the earlier write-up, Councillor Mason, is that who is J? I know who JH is, but would it be better to put the John Holland, because people don't know, a lot of people wouldn't know who JH. Am I correct in what you just said, JH? Is that written in as John Holland?
Can I just clarify that, Madam Mayor? It's actually CPB JH joint venture. The West
would it be better to put it in the name of the people, or is that the way it goes? A lot of people wouldn't know who it was.
That's the joint venture name.
Okay, all right, leave it at that. I was just querying it, that was all.
That's okay.
All right. So, and Councillor Thompson had his hand up as well. Did you have a question as well, Councillor?
Just if I can provide some input into that clarification, where I'm a little uncomfortable, is I understand what Councillor Rayburn is getting at, but I think we're being incredibly reasonable here and want reasonable outcomes. But as the road management, we can't ban a user from using the roads. And therefore to have a blanket approach to say that this particular organisation is not allowed to use Shire roads is not a reasonable request. I mean, what we're talking about here are loads which are outside of the norm for that road in terms of width and weight, not all usage of the road. I think that is completely unreasonable.
So thank you, Councillor Thompson. I think that point's noted. I think, Councillor Rayburn, were you more questioning the use of the term superload? Is that where...
Yes, I was, because any load, all loads that can go down over the creek bridge will go down over the creek bridge. There is some moderate loads also, which was going to go via the Longwood Road, and I just try to make sure that we don't lose that they can run these moderate loads, and we only talk about super loads. That's the only issue I was trying to imply.
Okay, thank you. So I guess in terms of clarifying that terminology then, what would be the best way for us, or best terminology for us to utilise and amend in this recommendation so that we're not restricting people from utilising the roads for normal loads, but this is actually referring to those oversized, overweight, over length type roads. Councillor Little?
In the recommendation 2, it refers to it again, doesn't it? Council on the Longwood Loxley community, the community have clarity on the number of date, times, durations of any proposed superload movements. So in that particular clause, we're talking about superloads there as well. So yeah. that's what we're interested in, is that superload.
Yeah. Thank you. Our CEO has a point she'd wish to make. Sorry, Julie, you're still on mute.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you. In terms of trying to provide some clarification around it, it was described to us that there'll be small superloads, medium size or moderate superloads, and then the very large superloads, which we are talking about, which was the maximum 160 tonnes, 4.5 metres wide, 5 metres high, up to 52 metres long. They're the really super loads, I suppose it was described to us. So we are really referring in this report, is my understanding, is that these are the loads that are too heavy to go down the Hume.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Rayburn, does that address your concerns?
Yeah, I just don't want to be seen to be caught out. That's all. I'm just trying to protect us as a council, that we're not saying something and then they come a point of clarity. You know, they come in and say, "Well, you said this, and we can do this." So I just wanted to make sure that we weren't going to miss out on anything. And I was just trying to use words like the traffic that can't use the Parajip Creek bridge on the southbound on the Hume Freeway, that has to go via Loxley Road, cannot go along there until we got an agreement with them.
Yeah. All right. In the interest of moving forward, and I guess I'm wondering whether we just look at slightly amending our description in above point 1 in the recommendation, where it says that we hope the proposed use of Avenel Longwood and Alexandreson's Road for mass cargo, and then in brackets it says superload. If we were to insert small, moderate and superload in before the superload term there, would that suffice for councillors? Would that clarity suffice for everyone?
Yeah.
Is that our CEO? Yep. Sorry, Julie, you're still muted.
I did unmute, but clearly not enough. Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you. Perhaps if we write some wording in brackets, as you suggested, and put use the term superloads, but use them as loads that are not able to traverse down the Hume Highway.
Yep. Do councillors all agree with that?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Councillor Mason, do you wish to speak to the background of this item?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Council was first of all advised of the proposed use of the Avenel Longwood and Alexanderson roads for mass cargo transit by Westgate Tunnel Project on the 14th of July 2020. The proposed diversion was due to the heritage-listed Parajip Creek Bridge on the Hume Freeway not having the capacity to support the weight of the mass cargo transports delivering precast concrete tunnel sections, superloads from Benalla to Melbourne for the construction of the Westgate Tunnel. As such, the Westgate Tunnel Project, the Department of Transport and the National Heavy Vehicle Regulator determined the use of Avenel Longwood and Alexanderson's roads as the most viable diversion to ensure the continued supply chain of the precast concrete tunnel sections. Initially, councillors were advised that there would be 2 evening movements per week for the duration of the project, anticipated period being 2 years. Since this proposed diversion was raised with councillors, we have undertaken a joint site visit with relevant officers to gain a true understanding of the amenity impacts for residents and degradation of the impact to our road infrastructure. As a result, the Mayor, on behalf of Council, has written to the Westgate Tunnel Project strongly, voicing our concerns, and I have an attachment of the correspondence, and are awaiting a response. To gain a more detailed understanding of the diversion, officers met with representatives from the North Eastern Regional Roads Victoria on Monday the 10th of August 2020. Following this meeting, we were advised that the first of the superload movements would commence on 18th of August 2020 without any community consultation or adequate communication by the Westgate Tunnel Project. Moreover, there is no formal agreement or consent from council for use of our road infrastructure. As such, an urgent community meeting with the Longwood-Loxley community was coordinated for Thursday the 13th of August and subsequently rescheduled to Friday the 14th of August 2020. At this meeting, council and the community were advised that there would be in fact up to 5 movements per week, the majority being at night. The super loads were described as approximately up to 160 tonnes in weight, 4.5 metres wide, 52 metres long and 5 metres high. The key requests raised by the community at this meeting included constant monitoring of the road surface and reinstatement at the end of the project, drainage improvements and shoulder widening along the route, line marking centre and shoulder of the road, relocation of the 60 kilometre sign 150 metres before and after the diversion period, no engine brakes to be used, timeline for the upgrade of the Prangip Creek Bridge on the Hume Freeway so that the use of the diversion would be a temporary solution, notification of expected days, times and duration that superloads would access the diversion route, community consultation and engagement to understand the project, and then regular ongoing communications thereafter, including the name and contact details of a go-to contact person for any project and or amenity issues. Electronic signage for the first month and then permanent signage thereafter for the life of the project to advise people of movements. A slip lane to Alexanderson's Road from the Hume Freeway for safety reasons. A bus stop for the V-Line bus that currently uses this route. Furthermore, North Eastern Regional Roads Victoria, on behalf of the Westgate Tunnel Project, were not able to provide enough surety to council or the community that their concerns would be addressed, or that any amenity offset benefits would be agreed to, other than the original unsatisfactory offer to reinstate the road infrastructure to the same condition pre-diversion. We believe that the approach by state government and the Westgate Tunnel has demonstrated little regard for council as the asset owner and the community who reside along the proposed diversion route. Our Shire and its community should not be disadvantaged in any way by this proposed diversion, and therefore seek, in good faith, that the state government and the Westgate Tunnel Project do the right thing by our community. We request that they provide the surety council and the community are seeking as detailed in the recommendation of this notice of motion in terms of the road infrastructure, amenity impacts and community benefit offsets prior to any superload movements occurring along the Avenel, Longwood and Alexanderson's Road route. While the conclusion is, whilst the Westgate Tunnel Project is an important major infrastructure project that will deliver many benefits to Victoria, the diversion of 5 superload movements per week will have significant amenity impacts to residents and degradation to the Avenel, Longwood and Alexanderson roads, which were not designed to support heavy cargo movements. The Longwood community action groups have clearly expressed their concerns regarding this proposed diversion. As such, we support our community's concerns and seek urgent council support to write to the state government, Department of Transport, the National Heavy Vehicle Regulator and the Westgate Tunnel Project to advocate on their behalf to halt this proposed diversion until there is clear agreement between all parties. And I've got the letter attached. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. Now, councillors, I just need to be clear. I'm just going back through my notes. Councillor Little, did you second this motion, or did I not get a seconder? I did. Yep. Thank you. Yeah, all right. So, Councillor Little. Thank you. So, Councillor Little, do you wish to speak to this item? Councillor Little, you're still muted. Thank you.
No, look, I think it's been totally covered there. By Councillor Mason. I think there seems to be a lot of press activity at the moment about it, so maybe we're getting somewhere with it, and hopefully we will get some of the things that we have been requested there. I just make a comment about the slip lane. I'm not sure about that, but it says a slip lane to Alex Anderson's Road from the Hume Freeway. I think that's on the wrong. So shouldn't it be a slip lane to the Hume Freeway from Alex Anderson's Road?
Yes.
It should be the other way around, I think. Now, whether that's worth just making sure, because otherwise they might slip a slip lane into the wrong side of the freeway, and that would be a disaster. So that's the only point I picked up. Otherwise, I think it's been covered really well, and it's a very good recommendation to be carried.
Thank you, Councillor Little. Any other councillors wish to speak for or against this item? All right, councillors, in that case, we have a recommendation before us that has been moved by Councillor Mason and seconded by Councillor Little as part of our urgent business tonight. I'm going to put that to the vote. So all those in favour? Thank you. Carried. That's okay. Thanks, Councillor Williams. I couldn't quite say that. I got it at the end. All right, carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Okay. Councillors, our next meeting is the ordinary meeting of Strathbogie Shire Council, is scheduled to be held on Tuesday the 15th of September 2020. Again, it'll be a virtual meeting via Teams and commencing at 6 p.m. Please note that due to the local government elections caretaker period commencing on Wednesday the 22nd of September 2020, there will not be an ordinary meeting of Strathbogie Shire Council held in October 2020. So therefore, councillors, there being no further business tonight, I am going to Councillor Gardner.
Madam Mayor, I'd just like to note that we had our last planning meeting this afternoon, and I'd just like to thank Councillor Little for the work and effort he put in as chairman of that committee over a long period of time.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. Yes, congratulations, Councillor Little, on all the work that you put into the planning meetings and chairing those. And thank you.
Thank you to my fellow councillors for being part of it.
All right, thank you, councillors. So therefore, there being no further business tonight, I am closing the meeting at 7:47 p.m. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.